My thought is maybe they think it's going to be a big fat nothing because they know what's really going on, and that I'm
Right.
thinking that it's just there's going to be no restraining order because nothing really happened.
Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktailers?
Hey, cocktailers. It's a new week. B, you, I think, had a lot of RHONY fans happy this week because we heard and, well, it was announced. Was it announced or we shared that there's a RHONY Legacy Girls trip happening? And to our pleasant surprise.
Was not. No, it wasn't announced. Like, this has not been announced. This has not been confirmed. So,
okay.
If it's true, it's a Bravo and Cocktails exclusive. I'm pretty sure it's true. I don't even know if it's completely firmed up yet.
Okay. But the best part, is it really, like, actually going to happen at Scary Island?
Okay. 3 different sources told me, like, bits and pieces, which is why I think that it is actually happening. I think that it's just firming up now, meaning I don't even know if contracts are signed, but we do know who is expected to be on it. So as it firms up, I've kind of been teasing out what I'm hearing.
Right.
So I did hear it's filming in June. I did hear it's going to be at Scary Island. Okay.
Do we know where Scary Island really is, actually?
You know what?
It's in the Caribbean.
Fans definitely do, but do I remember? No. I feel like, is it Turks and Caicos?
Cocktailers will know, but I know it's somewhere in the Caribbean. I just don't remember like what island it is.
Well, it's funny. I was just on Brands by Bravo's pod, and they do rewatches, and the episode we did was Scary Island. I did that last week, and it was before I knew about this. That would have been fun to add in. But, okay, so we know Luann. We've known Luann, Dorinda, Sonia, and Kelly. Okay, they're all still on the docket. What is surprising to many is that Jill is out. Okay, that might not be surprising. We knew that. Ramona is in.
Interesting.
So after it was announced that negotiations had fell through for a legacy in its, a legacy spinoff in Manhattan, all that had fell through because of, some say Jill, we say Luann and Jill not liking the paycheck they were getting. Jill saying she didn't like it because it wasn't equal. Luann in general just thinking it wasn't enough money because we heard it was a huge pay cut. Jill has completely backed out. And then they went on some like press tour. You saw it was Ramona, Dorinda, and Luann like having lunch, being out and about. And Sonia was actually away. And she like reposted them like, oh, my girls are out. So we knew they were up to something.
Mm-hmm.
And our suspicions were correct. But not just Ramona. We're also getting Alex McCord, Aviva, and Tinsley.
Okay.
So here's how I think of it. Ladies can commit to a week or two, right?
Right.
Their families don't need to be involved. You don't have to deal with the kids. You don't have to deal with the spouses or the boyfriends. It's easier to convince them. Like, as an example, we know that Tinsley's dating someone or engaged. We're not clear because, again, he's very private. Their relationship is pretty private. So she's living with him in the South. A trip, she can go on a trip and she doesn't need to involve him except maybe to say, I have a fantastic boyfriend. You guys will meet him soon, like to the other ladies, right? We know Alex lives in Australia, but again, a trip works. She did the girls' trip. With Aviva, I don't even know if she was originally asked for legacy or if she wasn't considered for that. Maybe I was thinking, Amanda, her kids might be at an age where she wouldn't commit to a series, but a trip is right up her alley because she wants to be back in the mix, but not like with all the cameras on her family.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is awesome because it gets their toes wet. And from there, maybe they...
I'm just laughing. You know why I'm laughing?
also going to say, and I think you can relate to this, and I'm sure so many of you guys can, the listeners. I find myself saying things that like my mom would say and I would roll my eyes at. And now as I get older, like they just have somehow become like a part of my vocabulary.
No, I know. I just laughing because I'm like picturing having watched RHONY from so long ago. We know that Aviva has 2 feet. She has her, like, if she's wearing flat shoes. That was not intended. Right. And then she also takes it with her to get pedicures. So I can't with that metaphor.
Oh my God. And I swear to God, that was not intentional. Maybe it was like a subliminal thing and I didn't even mean to do it.
No, and I'm not nobody's laughing at the situation. I got a very, very clear picture of toes getting wet.
I love it.
Anyway.
But no, I do. So it would, okay, let me change it. It would ease them back in.
Yes.
And I think from there, you know, once they're back in it, they may be more willing to do something like a whole season. And I think for both Bravo and the women, like Bravo can use this to see, like, how do people receive Aviva back in the mix? Or is Tinsley willing to convince her fiance she wants to do this again? Are Simon and Alex willing to move from Australia back to Brooklyn? You know, all these kind of things. And again, it could just be the trip, but we'll take it.
I mean, and it makes sense. I think we talked about this. I think maybe this was on the cocktail party pod when we were talking about this last week. But it makes sense to me, especially if, you know, budget seems to be, you know, a thing. And then like managing the schedules and the logistics, I'm sure just in New York City in general, it's got to be extremely expensive. But also it's encapsulated, right? Like, so, you know, the ladies aren't giving up 6 months of their time, which essentially they have to do when they're filming. You know, they can keep it encapsulated within a couple of weeks, and it like satisfies like the fan cravings to have these women back on our screens. So I wonder what do you think? Like, do you think Bethany will make a surprise entrance?
I was thinking Jill midway through showing up like she did in the original Scary Island would be classic. I haven't heard that that's happening, but I could see it. If they gave her like the full check to do half the trip and, you know, I could see it. I don't believe that Bethany will do it. I mean, all signs point to that's not going to happen. But again, a trip is a different thing. And I think it depends on where she's at, like if she has some business she's launching, if she feels it would be some way beneficial, which exposure is always beneficial, and these trips have great exposure. Certainly she doesn't need the money, but we know that she likes to be relevant, so it's not an impossibility.
Well, and the women, so I'm just trying to think here of who was on together and who was not. So like Alex left and Sonia came on, right? Were Alex and Sonia on the same season ever? Like, I feel
Alex and Sonia were on the same season. Okay. And I will tell you, I know that because I rewatched Scary Island.
Oh, Scary Island. That's right.
Thing, when I was rewatching Scary Island with Danielle from Brands by Bravo and Sue, who's her co-host, the three of us remembered rewatching it was that Alex and Bethany really had a nice friendship, because at that time they were I think around the same age, and they were not as established. Bethany was not, her businesses were not the success they are today. Right. And Alex, you know, they were women, they were coming up in the world, right? And they had a really sweet friendship that season, and I don't believe that they have maintained a friendship, but certainly I don't think there's any bad blood. And when you like somebody, it's like college friends, right? Like you go to your reunion and you bump into somebody that maybe you haven't kept in touch with because it wasn't part of your friend group, but you always enjoyed their company. And so then you just fall right back into that conversation, right? And that easy way with each other. So Alex could be a draw for Bethany. I think that Sonia would be a draw for Bethany because other than the cheater brand, Tipsy Sangria, whatever that was. Yeah. They always had a good relationship. Dorinda and Bethany are on good terms. I know they were rocky over the years, but when Dorinda was let go, we saw a lot of her hanging out with Bethany. Right. Ramona, Bethany has always had a love-hate relationship with, so whatever. So I do think Tinsley, Bethany did, she was whatever about her. I know she didn't like what was Kristen Teichman, but Tinsley, her and Bethany were basically, I don't think they loved each other. But in other words, it's not anybody should be super opposed to filming with.
No.
Luann and her have longstanding beef, but she's got enough allies, and Alex would certainly be an ally, especially where Luann's concerned.
Yeah. I love the idea too of just all the same women, like they all know each other pretty much, right? Like Tinsley maybe and Aviva might not know each other, but like pretty much they kind of all know each other. They all have, common filming history, right? Like they've all filmed with Luann, for example.
Yeah, there's enough, they're from the same era. There's enough
Right.
overlap that even if they didn't directly film with each other, they have been at events together. They're all living in Manhattan. And, Manhattan is a big city, but their circles, especially being housewives from New York, they've been in a lot of the same events together. So they all know each other.
Yeah. Well, I think it solves a lot of like the stuff that we were hearing. And yeah, hopefully, I mean, it'll definitely make good TV. And then I think it'll give everybody a chance to kind of figure out if it makes sense for there to be more of a legacy show. But that also tells me too that the fact that they haven't pushed so far, like as hard to film a legacy show as we had been hearing they had been at one point, tells me that the new reboot is going to be pretty good. And I know we've been hearing that. So we might be coming out like with a win-win situation here.
And also, I think that this changes things for other cities as well. We started with our mixed trips, right? Our girls' trips where it was cast from all over. I think trips with ladies past, present, from the same city, it will be such a cool and different vibe. They have a history.
Yeah.
And many of them have like natural issues, right? And even, listen, when you're demoted or you're let go and another lady comes on and has success, you have animosity towards her, right? And now we're putting you on a trip together and maybe you never filmed together, but that animosity is going to come out. Her maybe acting like she's better than you is going to come out. And and then you each separately have relationships with the other ladies that are different. And so how everyone meshes when it's like anything else, right? Like you have a group of mom friends and then you have a group of high school friends. And so you're not exactly the same person in each group. I know, like, for one of my birthdays, we did a trip to out east in Long Island to Vineyards, and it was awesome. It was post-COVID, and, you really hadn't seen anybody, and it was a bunch of my newer, like, mommy type friends, right, that I've made since I've had kids, and who some, there's some overlap in that, depending on where people live. And then it was my high school friends, my quote unquote neighborhood high school friends growing up. And then it was my college friends. And like many of them, like my high school friends knew my college friends, but both sets, there were some that didn't know my mommy friends. So it's like sort of interesting to have you with all like the versions of yourself, like who you were as a kid and a high schooler and then a college person and then a mom are like different versions. It's different chapters of your life. And so when the housewives that were on season 1, like a Ramona who was on season 1 with one of them, who then is no longer and was on a later season with Tinsley, it's like you're getting a different version of that person. With Ramona, she's a bad example. You're always basically getting the same version. But Luann's a great example. Luann at the beginning was so tight and stuffy and Countess with the class with the Countess, like back in Alex McCord's version. And then you have like Tinsley's version where Luann got arrested.
Right. You have your
so like Luann is such a different person to those people individually, and then to see them all together and you know what I'm saying. So
yeah, I totally do. I love that. So let's see. Today is March 23rd that we are recording, and little humble brag for the website that we posted back on March 10th from a source that BravoCon would be in Las Vegas the first weekend in November at Caesars. And then this week, Andy teased it on like an Instagram live.
So he teased it. I can tell you, my followers are saying the hotel prices are climbing up. which can only mean that something's happening that weekend. And yes, I know there's some other conference. You may know this. I don't even know what this means. A SEMS conference? I think it's SEMS. It's some sort of big conference that's held in Vegas. I didn't even Google it. I have no idea what it is, but
you guys, I mean, Vegas, but that's the thing with Vegas. Like, there could be a huge, like, it's not CIS, because that's in January usually. I mean, they can have a huge conference and like over at the at the Expo Center, and then totally do something at Caesars. Like, Vegas can handle it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's plenty of hotel rooms, but it is interesting that the hotel rooms are climbing the prices.
And what I say to that is, all of you guys who have not subscribed, if you saved money on your room thanks to us, subscribe. I'm teasing. But yeah, so I have to tell you, Amanda, that I don't want to even hint at how I came to this information, but what I can tell you is that nobody knew about it.
Right.
But because of the person that told me and their role in life, we'll leave it at that. I was like, I listen, nothing's ever 100%, but I really felt confident. And I have had people contact me like, who told you this? Like, how did you hear this? And to that, I say, I never reveal my sources. I never do. I never will. Listeners, if you ever want to send me something, it's like, I bury the body and I will never excavate it. I don't even keep like receipts. I delete stuff. I really don't, because I take it very seriously. And I know personally that being anonymous is something that I have requested of my followers. Like, you know, like, I don't want to be known. I don't want to be famous. Like, you don't have to look for me, because it's nothing. You're not going to find that I'm Bethany Frankel or, oh, do you know who people say they think I am now?
Who?
Danielle Cabral. Because I'm like, does my voice, I mean, she's from Staten Island. I'm not, but yeah, a couple people have said to me, are you Danielle Cabral?
Oh, I don't see that at all.
I honestly didn't either. I don't know. I'll take it as a compliment. I think she's great, but I don't. But so I say all that to say, I don't ever reveal my sources.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and that's what keeps our engine running, right? Because like that's what keeps like the gossip fresh, is respecting the sources, because people know to feel comfortable that we're not going to reveal, and there's always an anonymous. Yeah.
Do make sure your rooms are refundable because, as I say, I don't work for Bravo, and I didn't book Caesar's Palace for BravoCon. So if something changes, I don't want you guys to be mad at me, but this is what we're hearing, and Andy is teasing it. So I don't see why he would do that unless there was truth to it.
I feel like I haven't booked anything yet, but I feel like I want to. Okay, so let's go to the elephant in the room. Today, we know Vanderpump Rules is doing the reunion. We know Scandival. It's like every day I feel like there's some new something coming up with Scandival. And like, it's not just Bravo fans. Like, I feel like now there's a lot of people who didn't even watch the show and are going and watching the show so that they can understand better, like, the Scandival of it all.
I can't tell you how many of my non-Bravo watching friends that I've seen have been like, B, you have to give me a rundown. Like, what's going on here? I mean, it was on CNN. My dad was like, is this one of your shows? I was like, it sure is. And I told him, I'm like, I posted about it a few hours before TMZ. And I don't think he believes me, but maybe you can call him, Amanda, and let him know that that's like not just me blowing smoke up his ass. In any event, it's a wild ride. Before, and Amanda knows this because I immediately sent it to her, before the mid-season trailer was released.
Yeah.
I was sent it, and it was like incredible. And the person was like, you can make a post like with dictation about what you're seeing, but you cannot repost it. So I didn't. I just put bullet. And it's funny because I don't think I'm somebody who like, I'm a big picture kind of gal. Like, I don't really notice the details. And I know that there are like other accounts who probably would have done it like even better. And certainly many of our followers like notice things that I, sort of, because when I was sent it, it was just like, first I was shocked that I was sent it because I didn't realize it was coming out like the day after that.
Right.
I thought, so nobody thought they'd get it together that quickly. So I just saw like the main stuff, which at this time we have all watched. I mean, it's been critiqued a million times. I think we've all seen it a million times.
Well, remember what I said to you when you sent it to me? I said,
yes. See, and it's funny because you said that to me and I didn't even like, obviously that was quite the line, but everybody picked up on that.
Yeah. I was like, mark my words. Hashtag for you today is going to become like a totally trending hashtag. And it has.
You were right.
I mean, it is such an iconic line.
She's
so
an
crazy.
Icon.
Okay.
And we see, and also I posted yesterday, Ariana is in a new movie with, I believe, Megan Good, a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
holla at your girl. Good for her.
Good for her. I mean, so we know, and so since it came out on Monday, the promo has like, it's been dissected like a million different ways. There's that one scene that I have now seen dissected a ton of ways of Tom Sandoval leaning over a woman with an eye mask on who looks like they have brown hair. And it's been proven to be inside the hotel room at the resort where Sheena, see, I said her name right, where she got married. But there's no way that's Raquel. It's got to be Ariana. And just like, because Ariana has like that, she's kind of got the blonde kind of look going, I think, right now. It's got to be Ariana.
She actually just lightened it, but she did have like a light brown blonde. I think it's Ariana. It's Ariana. The whole thing, I mean, just his lack of emotion, like when he says what stood out to me, because everybody had something that stood out. What stood out to me was when he said, we both should have tried harder. Like Kristen Doughty said that we're going to just see him gaslighting her. And she was absolutely right. Like, we both should have tried harder. Okay. That is a conversation for a breakup pre-affair.
Right.
Right? That's something you can say to somebody if you're breaking up with them and they're like, what do you mean? I don't want to break up. Right. And they're like, listen, maybe we both should have tried harder. But if that was her in the bed, it was a very romantic kiss that they were having.
Right.
Like what? And also we see her say, or him say, sex 4 times a year. Again, we don't know if that was a weird clip. We don't know if he was talking about someone else. We don't know. We also heard her say, I can't have sex with someone who's a stranger. Again, I think that's probably an edit. Like maybe somebody was saying they had a one-night stand and she was just saying, I personally can't have sex with someone who's right. So we don't know the context of this. Also, the cute guy that she's topless in the pool with, he came out on Insta and he was like, hi, it's me. I'm Ariana's gay friend. We weren't hooking up in the pool at Sheena's wedding.
Yeah.
But if I was straight, she'd be my girlfriend, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I could also see Ariana saying, like, I wouldn't have sex with a stranger, like, to be like, I mean, the first episode, she talks about how, like, she hasn't seen him, right? That he's been working day and night. And, like, she goes with the moving van to him, like, to go help him go get, because, like, that's the way that they could spend some time. So I could see that completely making sense if he's like, well, we only had sex 4 times this year. And she's like, well, why would I have sex with a stranger? Like, I could see her saying that in that context as well. But
totally.
I mean,
totally.
So interesting. So I haven't gotten to watch it yet. Did you watch Jax and Brittany on Watch What Happens Live?
I did. And we also watched their media tour, which was about their Watch What Happens Live performance and Scandival. But today they dropped a podcast. Good for them. A source told me that, because everyone was asking, like, we know they're going to be on Watch What Happens Live, but they're doing all this press. I mean, I think it was the media's way. Listen, Jack's a great soundbite, so I think the media, it was good for them. It was great for Jax because he likes the attention, but he was promoting a podcast, which is great. It's a great accomplishment, but he doesn't have a television show coming. They have been floating this Valley, like, you know, how they all live in the Valley reality show with them and some friends of theirs. I don't know if that means familiar faces or not. Obviously, it wouldn't be Stassi because they don't talk, and it can't be any of the current Vanderpump Rules. What I'm hearing is that although they've had a lot of meetings, and you would think that even though people don't necessarily love him, they love to hate him. So, but I'm hearing since NBC fired them, they're pretty limited. Like Peacock's not going to pick it up. But this media tour and this appearance may help them. I have to say, Brittany's a sweet girl. Her laugh on Watch What Happens Live was incessant, and I hope she doesn't do that on the podcast because I, for one, could not take that. It was just like hello, hey. It was like,
oh gosh,
oh god.
Yeah, I look forward to watching it, and I actually I look forward to seeing both of them. I've just had a crazy busy week, so I had to prioritize like the main shows over the Watch What Happens Lives this week because I feel like the Watch What Happens Lives though have been just as good as the shows. I've just had to make some choices, but I look forward to seeing them, and I think Jax, Jax is going to have a unique perspective where he's known Sandoval and Schwartz for a really long time, but he isn't necessarily going to have any kind of allegiance, right? Because there's no show, there's no allegiance that he needs to try to keep up. So,
well, he was very belligerent, and like he also really dislikes Sandoval because they had a big falling out. He's saying like Sandoval said so many things about my character, and clearly I don't have a leg to stand on because I have made a ton of mistakes. However, he's a hypocrite because I at least had remorse, and he didn't even publicly apologize to Ariana at first. Jax also maintains that it wasn't just Miami Girl, that Sandoval has cheated on Ariana plenty of times, and Brittany seemed to think that came as a surprise to Brittany. I don't know if she was just playing that up, but so he was totally belligerent because, to your point, like the network isn't going to fire him. They've already done that.
It's interesting that Jax said that about Sandoval because I've always kind of thought that too, like that there's this very like sanctimoniousness coming from Sandoval, this like holier than thou, like I'm gonna stand up for the little guy and you're wrong, but he never seems to like, or he'll cry, right? But like,
yes,
he just doesn't tend to admit fault either, and like I do respect it, and we've talked about this multiple times. Like
totally, I never liked him.
Apologize, and they say I fucked up.
And even Sandoval, like even when he paid for James and Raquel's engagement, he made it about him. I just love to do this for people. He has a way of making even Tom Schwartz and Katie's marriage, he made about him. Jax's situation, he made about him. When Stassi had her, I think it was a book party or some party at,
oh my God, he flipped out on her.
Tom, right. And like she had cleared it through whoever the manager of the establishment is. He flipped out on, like he makes everything about him. And I've always felt that way. I think that with Jax gone, because Jax was so obviously belligerent and wild, but still Sandoval, remember when we found out that his band was going to be an add-on at BravoCon, and I did like a 20-minute rampage about nobody's going to attend because who cares about him? Yeah. Because a lot of cocktailers, not a lot, but a handful of cocktailers felt that we were harsh on Raquel and not Tom. And I'm like, no. If you've been listening, you know that I never was a fan. Like, I don't mind Schwartz. I'm not a fan of his, but I never liked Tom Sandoval. I even said on Winter House, like, I wasn't excited for them to come, but they were like, all right, Yeah. Never liked him. Like,
yeah, and so some of you guys won't have heard our emergency pods from the night that we recorded after like everything went down. But I mean, I went on and you like immediately agreed. I was like, guys, like they're both at fault. So when if we're talking about one or the other, it's because their betrayals were different, right? Raquel, her betrayal was very different from but also betrayal. And Tom's betrayal was different. Like, they are both betraying Ariana in different ways, and we were dissecting it, but we were like, they are both at fault. They are both at fault, right? And so...
And listen, the man is at more fault because the man is the one with the commitment. No one is debating that. And what's interesting...
Yeah.
What's interesting is this episode, like, everyone, all the girls, Katie, Lala, Christina Kelly are all going in on Raquel, and you see Ariana like trying to mediate it and just being like in her confessionals, like, you know, they're so hard on her. I can't picture that Raquel would be like this and all this stuff. And it's just like, wow, this is one of the only people who supported you, her and Sheena.
Well, and that is why Ariana, like, that's why everybody loves her, is because they see that she's really just trying to do the best. And like, she calls out, like, when she's like, I've seen them turn this mean girl shit on, and she's like, I don't believe it. I don't believe that that Raquel was acting like that. And I think, and she's standing up for what she thought was right, even when it was not the popular opinion, so
right.
Anyway, I don't know. I asked you last week if you had heard where Tom and Rochelle are, and so we've heard some mixed messages. So because we heard I'm not sure if it was Kristen, or no, maybe it was Kale, the ex-friend of Rochelle. Somebody went on and said, hey, Tom will not leave the house. He refuses to leave, and Ariana is feeling kind of unsafe in her house. So we heard that, but then we also heard that Rochelle and Sandoval were both in Arizona, where her family is. So maybe both are true. Maybe at first he wasn't refusing, wouldn't leave, and then joined her in Arizona.
Right.
But we know, like, she came back because we saw that she was boarding her dog in Arizona. So it tells me that she's planning on going back to Arizona after the reunion. And then there was the crazy video. Like I said, every day is something crazy and new, where she is sitting on a chair outside of the nail salon and gives this long interview with a TMZ guy. And she's even wearing the same sweatshirt that Katie wore on Watch What Happens Live.
Which, by the way, the name of the sweatshirt, a follower said, is called The Muse. Yeah.
And then, because that's what she thinks she is, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know what? If you want to be the muse to the lead singer of a cover band, then
have at it.
And then she's sitting, I guess the nail salon, Ariana goes there, and it's like, and it's in Valley Village, and Rochelle doesn't even live in Valley Village. It's like, what in the actual hell? I mean, in the words of Lala, from the last episode, Raquel, put a thought together. We know you can do it. Like, get an individual thought for once.
And sakes. Like, people will say, are we sick of this yet? But we aren't, Amanda. There's so many layers and players in this, and opinions, and this cast is all so outspoken, and they give their opinions, and they tell us the behind the scenes. I saw a meme, and it was something about, like, don't ever give up on yourself. Remember last season when we all figured that Vanderpump either wasn't coming back or would just, like, fade into obscurity and nobody would watch? And now it is quite possibly the biggest scandal ever on the network.
Right.
Like a phoenix. I mean, you have to give, whether you like them individually or not, if you are a fan of reality television, this crew of people, past and present, are gold. They are gold for any executive. That's why, as much as people say what they want about Jax, I can see him getting another show because it just makes sense. I think his podcast will be successful. I think people like his crazy takes. And, the Sheena restraining order, the anticipation for this reunion, every day a new podcast from a friend or a cast member, different perspectives. We know they want to film the restraining order. Oh, so I also posted this. So We know that they want to film the restraining order, but budgets are tight at this point, and I hear cameras are going to be down next week. Now, to me, when my source said that, my response was, come on, they're going to make so much money off this show, right? But I don't know how budgets work, right? So I should keep my mouth shut. I heard mixed things. I think they're not allowed in court, but I'm not even thinking about the court part of it. Like, we want to see cast reactions. And maybe that will depend. Like, if it's adjourned till June 5th, maybe they'll just be like, screw it, we're not going to get the reactions because it's the same, right? If it's granted, I think cameras go up. And if it's thrown out, cameras go up, right? So I don't know. That's my opinion. I think they're going to, well, I heard that. And so I tend to agree with that, although that's not firm.
Well, or because I wonder, because first of all, I think the budget thing, like, I think they could make one call from the production company, I think it's Evolution, and say Bravo, because, you know, usually the way it works is the production company is like they sell another season for a certain price, right? There's no way that Bravo wouldn't be like, we'll pay for an extra episode, right? And they do a contract for however many, you know, episodes. And so I'm sure Bravo and Evolution, I think it's Evolution, whatever the production company is, I'm sure that they could work that part out. And I'm sure Bravo would be willing to pay, because, I mean, just even the online revenue they must be getting just at BravoTV.com. I mean, it's gonna be good, and like the money will come. I'm just wondering, my thought is maybe they think it's going to be a big fat nothing because they know what's really going on, and that I'm thinking that it's just there's going to be no restraining order because nothing really happened.
Well, speaking of reunion, something that I got last night was that Sheena and Raquel will both be at the reunion. We know that. However, they can't be in the same room at the same time. There's no way around it. Raquel will obviously still have to face off with everyone else. Yeah. Like, I think they'll be like in different buildings, and then I think after we got that, we saw a seating chart and they said both of these will be used.
Yeah. Just like we said last week, like, there's a way that they can figure it out and like move the people around, you know, like it's really just Rochelle and Sheena that have to not be together. And so they can move one in, one out, and move the other in, just like we said. So that does not surprise me.
And this I posted, I didn't post yet. I'm going to post it for nighttime. I try to time my posts out, guys. It's an email I got called PR Strategy. Rachel is not nervous about the reunion. She knows the cast will be attacking her and looking to gain on that sympathy from fans. People are already siding with Rachel based on how Lala, Kristen Kelly, and Katie have treated her. And no doubt it'll be 6 against 2. And most will be more vocal against Rachel than Tom. It's actually a smart strategy because it'll work. It's worked for her before when she had the same gown designed as another beauty queen contestant. She did that on purpose and was crucified by a few women, and she still came out on top. What is that last part?
Still came out on top. Like, meaning it sounds like
she's still... Is that somebody we know, or is that... No, I mean, who did she have the same dress as?
Oh, I don't know. I don't follow the pageant world.
Right.
I'm sure we can figure that out. Here's a question for you.
Send it to us.
Based on that, right? Is there no limit on what Katie, Lala, and Christina could have said or done to Rochelle now, knowing what we know? Like, is there no limit, right? Like, is there a line where it's, even knowing what Rochelle was doing, you know, now, like, where it still feels Mean Girls and like bullying?
And totally. And I also, speaking of Katie, I wanted to point something else out, because I'm sure, listen, Bravo viewers are very savvy and they know what's up. About Katie not giving her room up in Mexico, super annoying storyline. Everyone knows they're filming a show. Katie wouldn't have been paid if she didn't go to Mexico. Even if she was at a different resort, it would cut into her screen time, right? It would also be a pain in the ass for production. The bridesmaid who needed a room was not a member of the cast. So production is not going, you know what I'm saying? As
So
far as her
we think
sending,
production paid for their rooms. Do we think so? Because we know that they didn't pay
okay.
for anything for Scheana's wedding, right?
So, okay, let's take the room out of it. If they didn't pay for the room, if Katie decided not to go, or if she wasn't at the resort to film, because in Mexico, all inclusive resorts, you need the bracelet, right, to be on
Right.
premises. So she wouldn't have got camera time. She wouldn't have been paid for those episodes. So let's say maybe, because I remember they said they didn't pay for her wedding. You're right about that. Let's go with that. It was her money for the room. She still wants to be in the episodes, as she should. She's a cast member. She's not going to give up screen time for Scheana. I mean,
Right.
Scheana, who, Brock didn't get a contract. That's why we're not seeing him. Okay.
Right.
So Scheana, because Brock didn't get a contract, the only person who really wanted to film with her, she wasn't invited on the girls' trip, was Schwartz. So Scheana made Katie her storyline by trying to hurt her. Katie didn't hurt Scheana during her divorce. I find Scheana so triggering doing this whole room thing because it's about the show.
Right.
Yes. If they weren't filming the wedding, maybe Katie would still have gone to Mexico but not stayed at the resort. But they're filming.
Also, I can't help but we all know that how I feel about Scheana being a BEC. However, from Katie's perspective, so I admit that I am biased, but from Katie's perspective, right? She was planning to go to Mexico and a lot of her friends would be there. And now she gets disinvited. It is a big resort. I would be no, I still do want to go to Mexico. And by the way, you're not going to just push me out of this trip with my friends because it's your wedding, right? So it's not like you're going to be with everybody at every minute anyway.
Right. And even Lala said, I want my friend there. That's who I'm going to be hanging out with. Also, the other evidence that they didn't pay for her wedding is that notice that James's girlfriend was not invited, which listen, listen, to be fair, as a normal person having a wedding, if your friend says RSVPs for your wedding, solo, and then, you know what I'm saying? You have your numbers and your budget planned out, and they get a girlfriend a month before, which is what happened. That's a real life thing where you'd be listen, sorry, dude, but you just got this girlfriend. She's a month in. Yeah. It's all your friends. It's not like it's your friend from work who doesn't know anyone and needs a +1. So I get that. But that's also proof that production wasn't paying for anything. Because if they were, obviously they would have paid for Allie to be there.
Of course they would have, because of the drama with Rochelle and with all of that. So yeah, I totally agree. And you're right. I mean, Scheana is definitely I think, plotted to make Katie her storyline, and that is really shitty. By the way, we didn't even talk about this, but the beginning of the episode when they're wrapping up their trip in Lake Havasu and they're at that bar, and then the guy, she calls him the Don. I don't know if his name is Don, but the Don comes over to hook up with Lala. She's all nervous, and he goes, "Don't get nervous when it's time to get serviced."
Yes! Oh my God. By the way, one of our followers figured out when she posted him in the bed, somehow, because he's a male model, he has a blue check and everything, and he's a public figure, right? He's a male model, blue check, public, Instagram. So she figured it out. She was like, B, this guy, I know this guy. And she actually said, she's he's a cool dude, and this is the guy she's hooking up with. Look, I can even show you the tattoos and then whatever. So I posted him. And it was the first time Lala ever messaged me. And she was like, and I'm only sharing this because it was nothing negative. And she was just like, you know what, Bravo and Cocktails, you've talked a lot of shit about me, but I gotta take my hat off to you, man. Your followers unmatched. I was like, they sure are. It was true. Very funny. And she said on Heather McDonald's podcast, shout out to our girl Heather. We're Team Heather. For those of you that know the drama that went on, we are always Team Heather. Heather supports other women. Heather always shouts out accounts. Heather has cited me, my friends, other content creators, and she never needed to. She could have just said, I saw it on Instagram, and she always does. Whether the account has 200 followers or 400,000 followers, Heather supports women. She supports content creators. She has them on her podcast all the time. She's good people. And for those people that say, oh, she's thirsty, Hollywood, whatever, it's how she earns her living. So, yeah. And you know what? She's a hardworking woman who has had success off the strength of her own back. And we respect that around here. So we will have no
Yes.
bad mouthing of Heather McDonald on our watch. But on her podcast, Lala actually said her and the Don were back, like, talking. She kept it, like, very vague, but, like, sounds like they're hooking up again.
Yeah, I heard her say that, which is why I was like, wait, okay, this is the guy. Because I was like, wait. And when I saw his tattoos, I was like, okay, that's the guy. I'm like, oh, I love this guy. But I mean, don't get nervous when it's time to get service. I mean, he might have to have his own show, I feel like.
Right? I think so.
And then speaking back to cover bands, we're hearing there's going to be a free show in Houston, perhaps some other places. I mean, like, somebody's got to go and report back to us.
Oh, yeah. And they will.
Don't you think? Yeah.
Well, like,
we'll hear about it.
A bunch of Houston followers messaged and they were like, so B, if I'm not financially supporting him, is it okay if I go? I'm like, if you bring a carton of eggs, it is.
I mean, somebody's got to tell us, like, what people are yelling in the crowd and all of that. I mean, I'm curious. If there were a free show in my city, I would maybe happen to be walking by at the time just to hear. I don't know. Just out of curiosity. Okay, so Jersey, I just got caught up on that. It has been, I think it's been so good. And talk about great casting. Like, before we get into all that stuff, I was watching that Watch What Happens Live with Rachel Fuda and Jen Fessler. And I had also heard Jen on, I think it was on, no, I'm sorry, Rachel on Kate Casey's podcast this week. And Rachel came out and said that she and Jen Fessler maybe didn't hit it off right at first, but that they've become such good friends, and that they're super close. And then watching them on Watch What Happens Live, Rachel, like, and Jen were like holding hands. It was so cute. And I was like, they have a real friendship. And I absolutely adore that, because, I mean, God, you and I both know, like, new friends can come from anywhere. And so anyway, I like to see that happen.
And yes, and shared experience can make you very close with somebody that you otherwise wouldn't be, right? So it's like work friends, right? Like, there's that meme that I'm sure everybody has seen where it's like, never would I have thought as a 22-year-old that one of my biggest confidants would be a 65-year-old woman in accounting, but here I am, right? Because that's how you get with your coworkers. So it's awesome.
For sure. So, yeah, tell me what you're thinking about Jersey. Let's talk about it.
So something that really stood out for me this episode, and I've always liked Jackie, but the hypocrisy of her questioning why Danielle doesn't speak to her brother when, after many years of Jackie on our screens, we don't have a whole or full picture on why she doesn't talk to her sister. It was sort of odd. I don't know why Jackie decided that her role this year should be coming for Danielle Cabral. I think that, and Danielle has actually said this publicly too, she said she didn't know how she'd be received. Obviously, she hoped she was well received, but she was unsure because prior, a lot of people were saying, oh God, she was on True Life Staten Island. She's thirsty, her Instagram. So I think Jackie was maybe banking on the audience not taking to her, and the audience kind of agreeing with her takes, kind of going against Danielle. And I think that has certainly backfired. I think it's quite clear that Danielle is a star on this show. And I just don't think Jackie should have been the one to bring it up, because it would be like me questioning why another account posts blinds that aren't verified.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Glass house, don't throw them.
Yeah. They're both in glass houses. Yeah, I think she's kind of digging deep. I think, and Jackie even admitted this, that it's been hard knowing that she was most likely getting a demotion, and it just feels kind of low rent to me to go for the new girl about something that, like, is clearly painful for her. It feels like it, not just the glass house because of Jackie and her sister thing. I know that she could do better, and I don't think it's a good look on her.
isn't like Danielle opened up to Jackie about it, right? Danielle opened up to Melissa about it. So it's
Right.
not Jackie's place in any way. And because it's something that Jackie knows that pain, right? Jackie knows that feeling of not being close with your sibling. So
Yeah.
why would she harp? I don't know. I find it an odd choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it's displaced anger, right? She's
Right.
angry, upset about not having a spot, and then she's displacing it at one of the people who it looks like is going to have a spot.
Right.
There's my, me and my psychology degree.
There you go, girl.
At work. Which I don't actually have one. I'm just kidding. But I was one credit short. I almost double majored, and I just decided like go ahead and finish in 4 years versus not. So anyway, what about, speaking of therapy, Jen and Bill? I mean, they're showing the session. I mean, my question for you is this, because I think, first of all, they both should get a lot of credit for even putting it out there. But do you think he's actually taking it seriously?
I can't answer that because I think it's hard. I think Bill's a hard person to read. I think he is guarded. Um, I think it's just his nature. I think he's guarded because that's how he is. But I also think professionally it's hard for him. I certainly think he loves his family. I think that their struggle, and again, I want to say I give Jen Aydin so much. She might be one of our best housewives ever. And not because I personally love her so much, because I have different opinions on different things she does, but she really hits the mark as a housewife, right? When you're looking at the boxes you should check, she checks them all. And what I find, and they have a real true storyline, right? People talk about having a storyline. And I think that, forget about the cheating rumor. Push that aside because it doesn't even matter. Jen already knew about that.
Right.
Obviously, she's upset about how it's affected her children now that it's public. But what I'm watching Jen do is, when Jen joined the show, she had something of her own. And she stepped into a platform where she found validation outside of being a wife and mother and homemaker. And she is dipping her toes into being a modern woman. Okay. And
Yeah.
I think we are in real time watching her navigate between her old fashioned cultural ways, how she was raised, and looking at two daughters who now know that their father cheated on them.
Right.
Which totally changes that, like, find a man, he'll take care of you view for everybody involved. And I think that the show gave her a scope to say, I want my daughters to be raised in a more modern way, and I want to live a more modern life, right? That is what I think we're watching. I think that she loves Bill. I think that she loves her kids. And I think that she is trying to strike the balance, because two things can be true. Okay.
Right.
You can. And for me, I think I watched my mom do it more so than me. I was raised more modern, but you can maintain those values, those cultural things that are important, holidays and family and tradition and religion and all of those things. But you can evolve to where your husband tells you how he's feeling and you express your emotions and you compromise. And it isn't just that he's the breadwinner and he comes home and lays in the pool house and I think now that maybe she's always wanted it, but now that she has her own career, which is obviously the show and all of the partnerships that have grown from the show and independent friendships outside of her family, right? Because I'm sure she has mostly cousins and her sister and sister-in-law and those kind of friends. So she has gained this independent, and to Bill's credit, he has supported it. And now as a couple and as a family, they're navigating this transition and we're watching it.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll make it work. I think, I think that it's interesting because as a viewer, you take things from each person that you agree with and admire, right? And
Right.
I think that when I look at somebody like Marge, I admire that she's always been a working mom because I'm one myself, and she's a
Right.
businesswoman because I'm one myself, right? But there are parts of me that when Jen said, I don't run at the first sight of trouble, I was raised that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't, listen, I'm married since I'm 25 years old. So obviously, to be married that long, it's because you don't run at the first sight of trouble. And that's not to say people should stay married because, and especially if there's cheating involved. I say all that to say, when you watch these women, you're watching Jen try to do both things, right? To honor what she feels is her tradition, but to make it modern.
I totally agree. And guys, by the way, I'm sorry, my dog is freaking out. Um, I'm sorry, he's fine. He just wants in the room, and my cleaning lady let him in, so he's just on the other side of the door. He's fine. You know, but back to the whole Jen and Bill thing. Like, I also think that their conflict is really relatable, where Jen is like, all he cares about is their grades and achievement, and I just want them to be happy. But Bill's like, giving them everything they want is definitely not going to make them happy. Like,
Right.
I can relate to that so much because, like, and I can see both sides, and like, I've seen, all of those things in my life as well, and know, like, I think they both are right, right? Like, they're both right. And it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I
I find it very interesting, I guess, is a good
Yeah.
way to put it. And, whether I agree with her, don't agree with her, because many times I don't agree with her. I do
Yeah.
enjoy watching. I also
Right.
have to say, I found it funny when she showed us her new townhouse at the shore and she's like, I kept the sheets, I kept everything. Like, I don't know. There's things about her that I really like think are just so honest. And people compare her a lot to Teresa. They're and I do think in like that old fashioned cultural family, whatever that is, but
Yeah.
Teresa would never A, admit that,
No.
or B, so
No.
I like that.
Absolutely not.
I like to see her when she's her. I don't like when she's soldiering.
Exactly. I love a good overshare every once in a while. And like, I totally agree. There's so many little pieces like that I really do like in her. Okay, so what about Louis? Talking like the whole wedding situation, and in my opinion, throwing Teresa under the bus.
Amanda, this isn't the first time. He did the exact same thing at the reunion with Marge when Teresa was furious and screaming, and Louis said to Marge, "You're a good person. I forgive you."
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
Teresa's like, "Wait, what?" I mean, so basically, you're saying Teresa is irrational and she shouldn't be mad. Now, I do believe that he was sincere, but he wanted to look like the good guy. And
Well,
Teresa's the
that's my
crazy one.
question for you. Do you think he was sincere? Do you think he was motivated by trying to be the
No,
good guy?
you
Do you
know,
think he was being
I,
manipulative?
I don't think he was sincere. I don't. So here's the thing where Melissa's mom's concerned. Here's my feeling on it. I mixed up my words. With Melissa's mom, if Louis was sincere and he felt when Teresa made the decision not to invite her, if he felt how he said he felt, which was that I'm sorry, but it was, if he had gone to Teresa and said, listen, Teresa, I understand there's some past there, but I really don't feel right not inviting your brother's mother-in-law. I think it would mean a lot to Joe for her to be there. And I think it's like a show of good faith for us to have her there. I think that Teresa, like she agreed with him there, would have been like, you know what? If you want her there, let's do it. And that is the appropriate way so that
Mm-hmm.
my husband isn't showing what an irrational lunatic I am that I didn't invite her, but rather he's privately saying to me, B, let's talk about this. Like, I know there are issues, but do you think you can move past it just for the sake of doing the right thing?
Keeping the peace.
And then they
Yeah.
would have invited her, but he didn't do that. He said, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. Teresa made this decision, but I think you're great. You've always been nice to me. And then he was going to invite her. And I think he ultimately did invite her, but then we know Joe and Melissa don't go. So clearly the mom didn't go. But like,
right.
I don't think he was being sincere. I misspoke, guys. I don't think he was being sincere. I didn't think he was being sincere with Margaret either. I think for some reason, he likes looking like the good guy while Teresa looks like the crazy one.
Yeah, and where I just can't quite land is he being manipulative, or is he trying to get some kind of savior good guy syndrome? I don't know. I can't quite
So we
tell,
don't
but
know
I
that
agree.
yet. So we don't know if there's something. What we do know is that he wants people to think, oh, look at Louis. Because everyone has said it. Marge has said it. Fessler said it this week. You're such a good guy. You're such a mediator. You always are the rational one. You know? So
Right.
It could, and I hope it's just that he gets satisfaction from just being the good guy. But we know that it could be that at the end of the day, he can throw his hands up and say, you saw how I behaved, and I was a good guy. And I can't say that for, so.
Right. Well, even the Teresa Stan accounts on Instagram have been calling Louis out for that whole situation, as well as what we see in the preview where he says he wears Nono's, Teresa's dad's, who passed away, rest in peace, wears his pajamas to convey a warm, comforting feeling to the family.
First of all, I rewinded it and I was like, wait, what? So you're telling me that Teresa's daughters, who, mind you, are 22, 18, 16, and like 14, are comforted by him wearing that? Did you see Joe's face? It was just utter shock.
And then Teresa gets in bed with him when he's, ew! Like, what in the actual flying F, Louis? That is so weird. So weird.
It's so weird.
I could see Teresa wearing his pajamas to bed to make her feel closer to him, to Nono, like I could see her doing that.
Well, she came out today and she's like, okay, I just want to clarify that it was brand new pajamas that I had bought my father that he never wore, and I gave them to him. And okay, but how does that make the girls? Yeah,
that sounds like a cover.
I think he was looking to trigger Joe Gorga, and it looks like it worked because then he started screaming. And again, that isn't to say that Joe Gorga should blow up and behave like that, because I've said many times that he's got to learn to control his temper. Him and his sister have that in common. But come on, somebody tells you they're wearing your father's pajamas. I mean, how would Teresa react if Melissa said, "Yeah, I go to bed every night to make your niece and nephews comfortable. I wear your mother's pajamas."
It's indefensible. Clearly, Teresa was just trying to cover this up, because that's not what Louis is saying. Like, he, at the very least, even if it was the truth, that's not what he was implying. Like, that's so it is so messed up. I find that to be a real line, like, that he has crossed, and it's like it's a clear shot to try to get Joe mad.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just starting to think that Louis is a lot more manipulative than maybe anybody's giving him credit for, except for Kate Casey, because Kate Casey's she's got his number.
I think a lot of people have his number. I think that we're not seeing it this season from the other ladies because they're trying to do the right thing and give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the reunion is going to be pretty explosive. I think we're going to see a lot of feelings on that. And I think the fans, by and large, see it as bananas, even people who like Teresa. There's a small section of soldiers that are refusing to see it, but it's funny, none of them reposted the pajama comment. So I guess they couldn't find a way.
One of the biggest Teresa Stan accounts even called out and said, Louis, Teresa, I love you, and Louis, I love you, but this is weird.
Right.
So,
and it is weird. And on that note, everybody stay in your own pajamas, okay? Until next time, cocktailers.
Bye, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening. Just want to ask you guys a favor, just getting kicked off. So many people have been asking us to do this podcast. So please do subscribe. And if you've subscribed, go to your podcast app and hit those 3 little dots to share with your friends, but only friends who like good tea, because the ones who don't care about tea, then forget them. And don't forget, find us on Instagram at bravoandcocktails_, and check out the website, because some great tea gets put there daily that would get us kicked off of Instagram. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you next time.